Good morning. Oh, afternoon, actually. And thank you for joining us at the first seminar of the Niagara Leadership Summit for Women 2020. My name is Grace Howes, and I am the Community and Public Relations Coordinator at the YWCA Niagara region. But more importantly, today I am your room moderator for Isabella Roy's session called Know Your Worth, Cultivate Your Inner Courage. I am a leader as a team member at the YWCA in Niagara region. I am a committee lead for the Niagara Leadership Summit for Women, and I'm a leader as a wife and a proud member of the Niagara region. I want to start this seminar today by acknowledging the land on which we live and work as the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabe peoples, many of whom continue to live and work here today. This territory is covered by the Upper Canada Treaties and is within the land protected by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Agreement. Today, this gathering place virtually is home to the First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people, and acknowledging reminds us that our great standard of living is directly related to the resources and friendship of the Indigenous people. Before we dive too deep, I want to take a moment to talk about the YWCA Niagara region. The YWCA is a local organization that stands for gender equity and gives a voice to those who are marginalized in our community. The YW offers emergency services and 3 stages of transitional housing to homeless women, men, and families to help its clients step by step break the cycle of poverty for good. We're just gonna take a moment to remind everyone about our community guidelines as well before I give Isabella the floor. We wanna take an opportunity to remind everyone that the Leadership Summit is a safe and open space for all participants. By participating in this session, you are agreeing to the community guidelines as found in the documents section. We are all responsible for making this an inclusive space, and we appreciate your support in doing so. Now, I would like to introduce you to our speaker, Isabella Roy. Isabella thrives in an environment where she meets ambiguous challenges because she loves connecting the dots. Isabella doesn't get frazzled by complex problems, but instead quickly adapts to positively to change. In a nutshell, she's fiercely loyal, yet complicated individual fueled by passion and ambition, which makes Isabella your best ally in moments of volatility and uncertainty. When she isn't playing mad scientist as a chief of staff, you'll find Isabella undertaking research, testing out new food recipes, and spending time with her family, or sipping on a pina colada or a glass of Chianti with her friends. If you have any questions for our speaker during the seminar, please feel free to use the Q&A and chat on the right side of your screen or on the bottom of your screen. Don't forget to share your experiences and learnings today on social media and tag our fantastic speaker, Isabella Roy. Without further ado, I introduce you to your speaker today. Please take the floor, Isabella.
Wow, thank you so much, Grace. What a wonderful introduction. Welcome everyone to Know Your Worth, Cultivate Your Inner Culture. So a couple of things before I get started. I just wanted to let you know that I will occasionally be looking at my notes. This is a bit of a passion project for me. And honestly, the most difficult part for me today was, or preparing for today, was wondering and thinking about how much to share, how much I would be able to share with you given the time that we have. So I have taken some notes, some speaking points, for lack of a better term, to help me stay aligned to what it is that I want to deliver to you today. So with that said, let me actually share my screen. Okay, Grace, I might need your assistance with this. It's not letting me share. Give us one moment here. So as Grace jumps in here and allows me to share my screen, let me just jump into a bit of an introduction here for you. So let me tell you what brought me here today, actually. So, of course, I teach at Brock University, so I've been aware for several years that we have the Leadership Summit for Women that usually takes place at Brock University. And this year, it came across my email, and I saw that the theme for this year was Rise Together. Women rising for each other, women helping other women to rise. And it actually came across my desk just at the right time. And the event that took place simultaneously to me receiving this information is actually what led me to think about sharing my journey. As so many women out there, women and girls have been struggling not only during COVID, but with other ones when it comes to family management, when it comes to career management and whatnot. It just all sort of accumulated together for me into one particular event that sort of propelled me forward. And so when I saw this come through an email, I thought, you know what, I think this might be an opportunity for me to share my side of the story and hopefully motivate some of you or encourage some of you, inspire some of you to take action, no matter how small. Let me take a look here if I can share. Wonderful. There we go. All right. So let me just jump on here now and I'll share my screen. All right, here we go. So 2016 to 2020, probably the most challenging stretch of time in my life. A demeaning, a defeating, heartbreaking period. Everything from challenges to completing my doctoral studies, to challenges of looking for a permanent job, to family changes, to losing my mother to a sudden and fatal heart attack during that period of time. It probably was some of the darkest, or were some of the darkest moments in my life. And the fact that I'm here today in front of you is proof that I've managed to come through this, but I didn't do this alone. One of the reasons why I'm here to speak to you about this. So let's fast forward through that period to June 2020. We're just sort of coming out of some of the COVID panic. I'm building my profile on LinkedIn, and a former colleague of mine reaches out to me and says, it's been a very long time. Let's touch base. I would love to catch up. Let me know when you're available. I would love to have a phone conversation. Now, this young woman, Karen, she was a colleague of mine at Brock University when I studied my linguistics program, my master's in linguistics. And I thought, this is great. I'd love to touch base with her. Wonderful young woman that had an interesting experience herself, that had come a long way, and that had actually changed her trajectory as well when it came to her career. So we set up a meeting, a phone meeting, so we could have a conversation. Now, before I take you into that story, I just want to give you a little bit of background about myself so that we can situate and frame the story and my experience with Karen. So currently, I have two jobs. I am an adjunct part-time instructor at Brock University. I teach at the Goodman School of Business, where I have been since 2011. And I teach our international students every year, our graduate international students, lovely, lovely students every year. And now I have been a Badger through and through for many years. I studied my undergraduate at Brock University. I returned for my certificate in teaching English as a second language. And then I went back for my master's. I left Brock University to attend Niagara University to obtain my PhD in leadership policy. Now I just graduated in January of 2020, and now I am back to studies, also at Niagara University, to finish my MBA in strategic management, because apparently I am a glutton for punishment. So just to give you a quick snapshot of who I am. All right, now, before we get into the meat and potatoes of this seminar, let me get back to Karen. So now Karen knew me back in 2012 when we were doing our master's together. At the time, she got to know me, she got to know my aspirations, my family situation, and of course, my career aspirations. So over the past few years, we would connect back and forth, text messages, emails, phone conversations, some dinner dates, things like that. So she had been on LinkedIn and something had triggered her memory of me. And so she decided to reach out and contact and say, hey, we need to catch up. So again, fast forward to June 2020. So we set up an appointment, we talk, and we probably spoke for about 90 minutes that first day. And she basically just had a very difficult conversation with me. And she said straight up, Isabel, you're spinning your wheels. I know you have aspirations. I know you have desires. You're fighting to get into an industry or fighting to get into an institution that clearly doesn't have any opportunities for you. And I need you to stop spinning your wheels. I see the potential in you. I know what you can do. And I think you need to redirect your focus. That's what I had to do. It was heartbreaking. It was challenging. I remember what it was like to be at the bottom and to have to fight your way back to the top. And she says, I don't want that for you. I want to be here to help you move faster, make better decisions, and use my experiences to help you along. Wow. I couldn't believe that someone cared enough to contact me and be able to have this difficult conversation for me, because let's face it, this was a little ego damaging. You think you know everything with respect to your career, with respect to your desires, where you think you want to be. You believe that you've laid out a certain plan for yourself. And when someone steps in and says, hey, I think you're doing it wrong, even when you know that you've been trying and doing the same things and it's not working for you, to hear it from someone else can sometimes be a little painful. But they're growing pains, at least in my perspective. So after the conversation with Karen, I thought about it and I spoke with my husband and I realized that she was right. And I already knew this, but I think I just needed someone to say it to me. And so we set up more phone conversations and several hours of conversations basically happened over several weeks. She took the time to really engage with me, to answer my questions, to explain her journey with me, to express her thoughts and her feelings and her caring for wanting me to succeed. So when I saw that we were going to be hosting the Rise Together conference, it just seemed so clear to me that I would need to share this experience that I had with Karen, because she truly rose for me and she had me rise with her. And this is what I'd like to share with you today. So along that journey of I'm going to say self-discovery, although I don't really like to use these cliche terms. But along this journey, there have been some activities that I've had to do to really get to know myself and to help me focus on what I want to do, what my skills are, what I need to add to my toolkit if I do want to take on this other path in my career. So I'm going to walk you through that today. So in about, let's say about 35, 40 minutes or so, we're going to go through some of the framework that I have here. I'm going to have you participate a little bit, maybe share a little bit of your perspective if you like. And then I will finish up with giving you some insights into what I've discovered about myself, where I am at this point, and where I still need to go. So let's get started. So what you're seeing on the screen right here is basically a framework. It is a matrix, which I will show you in a couple of slides down. And basically, these are just some concepts that come together in a self-analysis process. So self-leadership is not a new concept. It is part of the leadership conversation that is happening out there. I did provide you with some literature that you can find, I believe, under my profile if you're currently logged on, that will help you to gain some background information, not only in self-leadership, but also in self-reflection. Should you be interested in moving forward with this or delving deeper into this at some later time. So I'm going to touch upon all these four components as we move along, and I'll focus a little bit more on areas such as self-reflection and understanding how that connects to your self-worth and cultivating your inner courage or your bravery, as Tricia said earlier. Okay, so first off, when we look at the self-leadership journey, we call it a journey because that's exactly what it is. It is a process For those of us that like finality and want to understand that there is an end, self-leadership can be a little challenging because there really is no end. It is a lifetime journey, and the idea is for you to practice self-leadership in everything you do, in every moment of every day. This sounds highly intimidating. I completely understand. But once you're actually in the process of self-leadership and you understand the benefits, it becomes part of your daily habit, your daily thinking process, and becomes almost second nature. And then you realize that this is probably something that we should have been doing all the way long. And my gosh, why is this not being taught in schools? Right along with journaling. I don't have an answer for that, unfortunately, but for those of you that are here today, I welcome you to self-leadership and all the benefits that it brings. And I have to admit that I am a success story when it comes to self-leadership, with respect to having discovered it, thanks to Karen, and being in this journey and understanding that I'm in it for the long haul. So here are just a few questions that you might find helpful as you progress through understanding self-leadership. These are some of the questions you can ask yourself as you begin. How did I get here? And by that, we mean euphorically. How did we get into this position? How did I get to this point in my life? Good or bad? You might be in a situation where you are very happy and you say to yourself, wow, how did I get here? It's really important to reflect, bad or good. You always want to understand how you got to where you are so that you can continue that momentum. If it's not where you want it to be, you want to disrupt that momentum and you want to make changes. And these are the questions you would ask. So where am I now and where am I going? So as you can see, this sort of leads into a little bit of a goal setting, a plan for yourself, for example. So let's take a look at self-leadership. I'm just going to move my little camera a little bit out of the way here. So just a few brief points. As I said, material is available for you under my profile, so I didn't want to provide too many points in here. I just wanted to give you some of the core concepts. So this is a lovely agency called Alchemy for Leaders, who really supports self-leadership and provides lots of seminars and other material when it comes to self-leadership. So you're welcome to check them out on the internet. So these are some of the points that I learned from this organization. So when we're looking at self-leadership, the real overarching component is knowing that you should be living your life purposefully and intentionally, guiding yourself through that life. Do we like to throw caution to the wind? Absolutely. And I think it's great to do that. And we do that during our downtime. If we go out with friends, we have a little coffee, we relax, we're really not on guard, and that's okay. But the concept of self-leadership is that we should have a guided understanding of where we've come from, where we are, and where we're going, so that we can live with purpose and intent. And for any of you that have gone through any kind of self-assessments before, any kind of self-development seminars or webinars, you will find that what we cover in self-leadership is really part of all this. If you've been part of any emotional, EQ experiences, this all connects together back to self-leadership. So some of the core components that they really propel in the literature is about learning to be self-aware and regulating yourself, having empathy for the people around you, understanding what somebody else's reality is in a certain situation, which leads into being able to better manage your relationships. So that leads us into another component, and this is self-reflection, which is a pretty big component of our seminar today. So when we think about self-reflection, I tried to change the words a little bit for the matrix, because a traditional SWOT, we have the strengths, the weaknesses, the opportunities, and the threats. So some of these words are actually quite loaded, in my opinion. So strengths, wonderful word. Weaknesses, I'm not a fan. Just because we have challenges does not necessarily mean there are weaknesses. And as I said, some of these words are loaded. So I changed them a little bit when I created the framework for myself. So this is not a published framework. This is just something that I created along my journey and something I used to work with. So we have accomplishments, we have challenges, we have lessons, and then we have opportunities. And they do lead one to the other. And I will show you a little diagram of some of the notes that I had for myself as I was going through this, as I was developing this framework for myself. But these are some of the things we're going to look at in the next slides. So what is the point of really, self-reflection? What are we aiming here for? Really, it's self-analysis. We're trying to get a good snapshot of ourselves. And the reason being, if we want to be grounded, if we want to feel secure in who we are, or feel secure with who we are, who and what we are, the only way to do that is to really understand ourselves on a very deep level, which requires some uncomfortable and difficult conversations with ourselves. And, when my children ask me, or when my husband asks me, or my friends, and we speak of situations that might appear to be a little unethical, manipulative, and it doesn't really matter what the end goal is. My question to them is always, can you look yourself in the mirror in the morning when you wake up? Because really it's between you and your reflection, what you do. Because we have the opportunity to lie to people, we have the opportunity to deflect, but you can't hide from yourself. And this is another reason why self-reflection is very important. You need to be able to fully understand yourself. You need to understand the sharp edges you have. You need to understand, those spots of darkness in your soul, because we all have them. If we fully understand who and what we are, what we're capable of doing, the good and the bad, it grounds us. It makes us feel much more secure. And it means when negative situations do arise, or severely challenging situations, those that truly derail us, we have at least a strong foundation that we can rely back on to say, okay, that was a little shaky, but I know who I am at my core, good or bad, and let me build my way back out of this. It's also very helpful to know who and what you are when you're faced with criticism, when people try to tear you down. Feedback, positive feedback, very important for our personal growth. What is not effective for our growth is negative. Right? And it doesn't really matter how it's delivered. I know in the old days, especially those of us that went to school in the 80s and 90s, critical assessments, right? Anything that had the word critical in it used to make my skin crawl, because it already had a connotation of being negative. And that's not really what we want. Negativity tears people down. It makes people feel defeated. And that's not really what we want. We want to build people up. We want to help them rise. So these are some of the influences that we come across when we're talking about self-reflection. We end up looking at some of the standards and definitions that we live by. And these could be society's rules. They could be within your work, within your family. It's really up to you what level you want to define those at. You have to look at your fears and your concerns. Again, it depends on where in your life you want to apply these: home, work, school, right? What are your core values? What is your belief system? Does that ground you? Do you have questions? Do you have a crisis of faith? What are your expectations? What are your desired outcomes for today, for this week, for example, for this conference, right? From your career? What are your emotions and attitudes? What do you carry with you? What can you not let go of, and why? Sometimes this is very valid. Why can you not let go of certain emotions and attitudes? These are all things that should be explored. What roles do you play? What roles are you affected by? What roles do people around you, play that hold you back? Are there archetypes that you have in your mind, a certain status that you are trying to attain yourself? And are those archetypes realistic? Have you created those? Did society create those? You have to break those down. So for example, if you wanted to work in a corporation and you have a certain image or an archetype of what you think a certain CEO looks like, or a female CEO looks like, sometimes those archetypes are not realistic. And we need to break that down, because if we plan to be a CEO at some point in time, if we have archetypes that are not realistic, if we have these examples that we cannot live up to, then we automatically set ourselves up for failure. And again, this is negative. We don't want to do this. So we have to be very realistic with our expectations, and we have to break that down. And the only way we can do that is through self-reflection activities. We have to share our stories and experiences, no matter how trivial they are. I find today we live in a world where if it is not an epic situation, nobody seems to really want to hear about it. As an academic, as a researcher, as a scientist, a social scientist, I hear very often that we need to be looking at things that are generalizable. We need to do studies that we can apply to a greater number of people. And I always argue for the individual view. Our individual lived experiences might be small, but they're not insignificant. Small and insignificant do not equal. They are not the same thing. And I believe if we give space to individual experiences and stories, and we weave them together into a tapestry, it will tell us a story that might be generalizable. So this is, again, really important component of self-reflection, because we need to hear people's voices. We need to hear that individuality so that we can piece it together. And self-reflection, most importantly, will hopefully reveal your talents. And this is where we're going to build the foundation, at least for career and aspirations, when it comes to what our strengths are and how we're going to capitalize on those moving forward. Now that all leads us into something I call knowing your worth. So I think women and girls naturally deflect from speaking about our best qualities. I have yet to discover why. And I understand there is some research available to us that tells us why some women and girls feel this way. But honestly, as a woman, I really don't understand why we deflect. And this is one component that I've probably had the most difficulty with, and probably the one component that I continue to work on. So I marked down just a couple of points here to share with you. So when we're looking at understanding our worth, we have to understand what we like and what we don't like, what we can and can't do, and what we will and will not do. And if you look at those questions, you see that they align with the self-reflection component, right? Understanding our belief systems, understanding what's right and wrong. This connects to some of these questions, for example. So under what do I like and what I don't like? For example, I love to be challenged, and I thrive in change, I've noticed. I don't like monotony, and I certainly don't like any kind of needless repetition. Now, what can and can I not do? Well, that really depends on how we're looking at it. So if I were to look at it from an intellectual capability, do I have the smarts for it? Do I have the physical attributes to be able to do whatever it is that I would like to do? Do I have the motivation? Do I have the aptitude, for example? And there are other questions that you can ask along the way. What will I and what will I not do? So this comes down really to values, ethics, beliefs, compromises. What are you willing to trade off and sacrifices? So truly understanding the value you bring to everything you do and everyone you interact with is what defines your worth. So here are just some points for you. So what I have found really helpful is to do something called a 360. It is something that I believe comes out of human resources. And the 360 is where, for example, if you're working in a company and you've got your annual review, through the 360 perspective, you can actually interview or obtain feedback from all the people around you, people that you work with immediately in your department, people maybe at the next level or in sister organizations, and getting feedback from these individuals in terms of how you work, how you interact, what your persona is in the workplace. Sometimes we think we're showing one aspect of ourselves when we're actually showing something completely different. So the concept of 360 is actually really intriguing for me. It gives you the opportunity to speak with people all around you, whether it's your family, your friends, your colleagues, any courses that you're taking, any classmates that you have. Being able to ask them, hey, could you give me some feedback on this? Or could you tell me what, your perception of me was the first time you saw me in the classroom? What do you think my participation level is? Do I come to work grumpy? Do I come in with a smile? Do you feel like you want to engage with me in the morning when you see me? This is what the 360 perspective is, and it can actually be very interesting to obtain this. So the first time I did this was at a job many years ago, probably 18 years ago, something like this. I was up for I guess my annual review, really. And I had asked my boss if it was okay because we were given the information ahead of time so that we could answer some questions while the manager would be answering similar questions about me so that I could sort of bring my perspective, she could bring hers. And I said to her, do you mind if I ask some of my colleagues to answer some of these questions on my behalf so that I can get an understanding of what they say about me? And that way I'll bring that in, and then you'll have my answers, you'll have sort of their feedback, and then we'll look at yours and we'll see what's common and what's not. And, maybe that'll help me to sort of tweak some of the things that I'd like to tweak to help me grow in my position. And she was just amazed by this. And I explained I couldn't take the credit because obviously I didn't develop this, but I just thought it was an intriguing concept and it would maybe give me a whole picture, or as close as possible, 360 view of what my life was like in a snapshot in my professional life. So another way to understand your net worth is to have candid conversations with people that you trust. For example, like what Karen did with me, having that honest conversation. That actual honest conversation led me to have honest and difficult conversations with my children, with my husband, with my aunts, with some friends and colleagues. And the feedback was really interesting. And I did ask for brutal honesty, which stings a little bit. But if you do want a complete picture of yourself, then you're going to have to take the bruises a little bit and be mindful that it is being delivered. The punches are being delivered with love, if that makes sense. Now, understanding your strengths and coming to terms with your weaknesses, and yes, I am using the terms weaknesses in here, is really, really important. I know in the old days, we would always be told to, you might have 6 strengths, but you've got 3 weaknesses. It is really important that you take those 3 weaknesses and turn them into strengths. Sometimes we just can't. And I realized that we were wasting a lot of time trying to convert these weaknesses to strengths rather than working on our strengths. Now, Gallup, for example, has taken the flip side on this and has says, you know what? We realize you have some weaknesses, but we really want to capitalize on those strengths. So I am happy to hear that we are finally propelling people forward, looking at the strengths rather than weaknesses. However, in order for you to be secure with who you are, to have that strong armor necessary when you're met with negativity and criticism, you need to understand what you are not good at. We all have things we're not good at. We all have strengths. If we all had the same strengths, it would be really difficult to operate in this world. The reason why we have strengths and weaknesses is because we fit together like a puzzle. I'm good at something, you might be good at something else. We come together hand in glove. This is why we need to celebrate looking at our strengths, because we need to connect with people that can fulfill what we need, that can fulfill the gaps in the weaknesses that we have. This is the goal. So understanding what your weaknesses are, being able to deal with those, this is what will give you the strength and the foundation to move forward and to start building that resilience that you need for when negativity comes your way. So you won't really know your worth until you have at least most of your puzzle complete. Now that's the good thing. The bad thing is this is an ongoing journey and you will never have a completed puzzle. What you will, however, have is a completed framework. So if you picture yourself creating a puzzle for yourself, what you're doing is building sort of the framework of that puzzle, and it's giving you an outline of who you are, and you're building the components in the middle. Another reason why you don't really want to finish the puzzle is because you don't want to be finite. You want to continue growing as you move along in life. You want to take those experiences that you have and you want them to become a mosaic of your life. I would never want to be complete. I would always want to strive for something new. I'm not going to use the word better. We want to strive for something new. We want to strive for a new experience, a new challenge, something that really helps us to grow. And the only way we can do that is by remaining on this journey. Now that brings us to cultivating your inner courage. And these are the 3 best comments I have seen when it comes to literature referring to cultivating your bravery. Yes, you can. Failure is definitely an option. Try and try and try again. So when we cultivate our inner courage, what we're doing is taking all of the other three components and all the subcomponents and bringing them into, how do I use this to make me stronger? What will the result be? So self-leadership, reflection, self-analysis, these are all powerful tools that should bring you the result of having a much better understanding of who you really are. This way, when you are faced with judgment and criticism, you are much better able to shield yourself from any of the hurt going too deep. Because the ultimate goal, it's okay for you to be disappointed, but it's never okay for you to be devastated, because if you're devastated, recovery is much, much harder, much more difficult to get through. So the aim is to be disappointed. So what are some of the results of doing all these activities to build your inner courage? It gives you perspective. It allows you to set realistic goals. It makes you aware of your personal and your environmental situation. And I don't just mean physically, I mean emotionally, the people around you. It allows you to better manage your feelings and your emotions by understanding why you react the way you react to certain things. And it helps you to recognize and celebrate wins, no matter how small they are. One of the examples I was giving, yesterday when I was communicating about this event was, we trivialize minor little events that we should celebrate. Like, for example, the one morning I was so happy that I managed to shower before driving my son to school, because we get up at 6:15 in the morning. And well, frankly, I don't want to get up at 5:30 to shower first, but for some reason this morning, that one morning I was charged and ready to go. This is a win for me. This is, an achievement at the fact that I was able to manage my time much better. These are some of the things that we have to look at and we have to celebrate. And these are little wins. What we want to do is take the challenges and we want to turn those into lessons so that we can propel ourselves towards opportunities. So here are just some quick tips for you with respect to doing a self-analysis. And when I say self-analysis, it encompasses everything that we've talked about to this point, right? So write a journal or keep a journal. Think about things as you're exercising, and you've got your mind going at the same time. This is a great tool for you to reflect on what's been going on. Ask questions of yourself, of the people around you. Discuss your journey with others that you trust, so that you can be vulnerable and you don't run the risk of being hurt by anyone. And of course, make sure you attend all the workshops that we have in this summit over the next 3 days, because a lot of these seminars and panel discussions and workshops that we have actually connect to all this. And we'll hopefully give you the insight that you need to find that secure foundation to be stronger, to rise and step in when you need to. So let me just give you an opportunity to practice some of the things that I've mentioned here. I'd like you to take a few minutes, if you don't mind. You can actually either do this on a piece of paper, if you have some paper with you, or you're welcome to enter this information into the chat if you wish. Grace is definitely on the other end here, ready to receive some of your questions or comments. What I'd like you to do is just take a few moments and let's see if you can do some self-reflecting on the fly here. So remember what I said, it doesn't need to be an epic event. When we reflect, we're not looking at, oh my gosh, did I win a trophy today? We have to think much smaller. Like my shower example, being able to manage my time well that day to get my son to high school, where I didn't have to show up in PJs, for example. So take a minute or two, take a look at this little matrix that I created for myself. So we have 4 panes here, 4 squares, if you will. We've got accomplishments, those lead into challenges, those will lead into lessons learned, and those should lead into opportunities. Now, you can have the accomplishments, the challenges, the lessons, and the opportunities all connect. It might be part of the same thing. So for example, my shower, was it an accomplishment? Yes. What was the challenge that led up to that? Well, I guess I've been very tired because I've been staying up late, that I haven't been able to get up early enough to shower before taking my son to school. I had to wait till I came back home and then I showered. So the challenge was time management. So what's my lesson from that? Probably not going to bed too late, not putting too much on myself, tweaking my schedule a little bit, Anything like that would be a lesson. And then what's my opportunity? Well, my opportunity could be to have more time to myself if I learn to better structure my time. So maybe if I can have a little pocket of time set aside for myself because I'm managing my time and myself a little better, then I don't have to stay up late anymore to watch my favorite TV show, for example. So let me just give you a few minutes there to do this. I'll be silent for just a minute or two as I give you the opportunity to think. But please keep in mind, I am here. We are listening to you. So I recommend that you start with the accomplishments and move your way through. So I'm going to give you 2 minutes. So hopefully by now you've written something in your accomplishments. Remember, they don't need to be epic. As a matter of fact, as you use a tool like this to reflect on a daily basis, you want it to be simple. You want to be able to write down just one sentence or two maximum. And the reason why you want to keep it as simple is because you want to be able to repeat this daily. The goal of reflection is to really be able to do it daily so that you can gather up your documents and slowly piece together your mosaic. If you have too much content, it becomes overwhelming. And then you won't want to do it. And this is something that unfortunately you need to commit to if you really want this to work for you. So simple, something like this. I know some people really love their journals. If you feel you need to go purchase an expensive journal, absolutely. I've done all of it. I have bought passion planners. And what I discovered in spending all that money on journals is they were too restrictive for me. I needed creative freedom to be able to scribble on my page if I wanted to be able to be a little bit more formal like this document is. And so having pads of paper, all over the house is how I reflect. And that is not an exaggeration. So if my friends were here right now listening to me, they would all give you a nod of confirmation. I even have a little notepad I carry around in my in my purse, and it would not be unlike me to be sitting at lunch to have a discussion with my friend and to all of a sudden pull out my notebook and write something down because during the discussion something has stimulated my curiosity and or self-reflection, and I've noted it down. I also use WhatsApp, where I've created a group for myself where I leave myself voice messages. I know that sounds really strange, but it's actually so effective. And I have conversations with myself, and it's really up to you how you'd like to use it. But remember, you can keep it very simple, keep it real, as I like to say, especially in today's day and age with everything that we're experiencing. For me, it's very therapeutic to put pen to paper. Now, you're welcome to go ahead and share some of your reflections if you like. You can enter them into the chat if you feel you'd like to share. So I'll give you a moment to do that as well. I have my iPad beside me so that I can see some of your comments. I have avoided looking at them because I didn't want to be distracted as I was presenting to you. But for right now, if you would like to share any of the accomplishments that you've had or any challenges or lessons, opportunities, Remember that self-reflection about things that have happened to you, we refer to that as hindsight. And hindsight is really important because it's a predictability tool. I mean, if we could predict the future, I think we would all be rich, and we would probably not experience the sadness that we do, because we would be able to prevent many things. But hindsight allows us a certain level of predictability so that we at least have the toolkit that we need to be able to deal with things as they arise. And we can't get that hindsight unless we reflect. So this has been something that has been used in teacher training programs, because teachers tend to self-reflect a lot on their lessons and on their learners. And it's certainly been in counseling. It's actually making its way into corporate as well, where managers are becoming aware of the fact, much like what I did with the 360 of my boss, but they're becoming aware of the fact that if we want our employees to be more efficient, more effective, in wanting their well-being, they've come to realize that we need to give people the opportunity to reflect either on a project, on an activity, on promotion, on a job well done, on a job that didn't work out so well. The only way that employees can learn is by hindsight. And then they bring that to the manager, and the manager can then bring it to the executive. And that's really where we affect change. That's where we see impact. So on a lower level, I really don't like to use the term lower level. On a different level, when we're looking at our family relationships, our friends, we're really dealing with the same thing, right? We reflect upon ourselves. We look at the hindsight of how we relate to people, and then we bring that back into our relationships. And, we really need a good understanding of how we are with other people. Are we fair? Are we not? Do we give too much? Do we not give enough? So this is what we mean by hindsight. So I do see that some of the comments are coming in. So this is great. I'm happy to see that you're sharing with each other. Very good. Thank you for that. Excellent. So as you can see, it's not really too difficult to do, right? Now, let me just hustle along here for the sake of time, but these are my tools that I use. Very simple, little folder. I like to use this grid paper because it allows me to also be creative. As you can see at the bottom of the grid paper, you can see where I was a little creative before. And I use a zebra pen just because I like it. After using many, many pens, that happens to be my favorite. All these things are available at Walmart, for example. Simple, cheap, effective. Here's an example of something that I once created to give you an idea of what my reflections look like. So it can be something this simple. It doesn't need to be anything expensive, anything electronic. You can do this in the evening after dinner when your children are busy doing something else. You can grab yourself a little hot tea, sit down at the counter and think about your day and just write down what you think. This is me writing it down in more of sentence structure, I guess, for lack of a better word. And it just kind of shows you the flow. And the purpose is to sort of gather all this up, either after 3 months, after 6 months, after a year, look at the commonalities in the different components and accomplishments and challenges, and see if you see any repetition, see what patterns come out, and then you can analyze your habits. And only then can you really change them, right? When you know what's going on. And this is what I mean by piecing the puzzle together for yourself. So just to briefly give you an idea of some of the things I've discovered about myself. I am fiercely loyal. Unfortunately, that also can lead to heartbreak. I am quite complicated, and I have many layers to my personality, which is fun and annoying. I am definitely fueled by passion and ambition, but what holds me back is the fact that I still strive for a better world, which means I would never be manipulative. And as one of my friends told me, I would never become a millionaire because I don't have what it takes. Like, for example, the gentleman that started McDonald's. I don't have the ruthlessness. Yes, I am conflicted in almost everything that I do. I am addicted to puzzles, and that makes me an excellent investigator, I've realized. I am very good at connecting the dots. I do need to be challenged, but I don't always have to win. I love to collaborate, but I do need some downtime to recharge my batteries. I find that I need to be on my own when it's time to really get dirty, because I need that mental and physical space to really work out my own thoughts before I bring them back to the table. I don't want to be influenced by anybody else's thought process. I would like to come up with my own ideas first and my own perspective, and then bring it in and then hear what other people have to say about their perspective. I don't want to influence. I want you to come to the table with your ideas, and then we negotiate our way through. This is part of the 360 experience. I like to be kept on my toes, and if you do keep me on my toes, I will definitely make you proud. I give 110%. Unfortunately, I expect the same in return, which makes me ridiculously unrealistic, but I am eternally optimistic. I truly, truly believe in my heart and soul that tomorrow will always, always be better. Now, fake news. This is what we like to show the world. This is what we believe as women we need to show, as women and girls. That things are always perfect. We are always put together. The fact is, I feel like I am never put together. The right is basically how I live my life. And I've actually come to embrace that. I love that crazy component about myself. I don't mind getting up in the morning and looking like that, because that means I've done a job well over the week. So let me leave you with these. Be kind to yourself, respect yourself, trust yourself, and forgive yourself. Say no often. Biggest lesson of my life. Say yes when it makes sense. Be disappointed, not devastated. Remember, recovery is hard when you're devastated. I'll be the first one to tell you. Let go, move on, step up, and step in for yourself. When you are strong, you can rise, and then you can help someone else rise. Karen was strong. She helped me to rise. Only when we are strong enough to rise will we be able to lift our sisters so that we can rise together. Thank you very much for attending my seminar today. It has been an absolute pleasure. I've gone over my time just a little bit. I apologize for that. Here is my contact information. We probably don't have any time right now to field questions. As I had told you at the beginning, I had a lot to share with you, and this was really just scratching the surface. If you have questions, by all means, connect with me on LinkedIn, email me if you like. We can even have a chat via Zoom or Microsoft Teams if you wish. You can follow me on Twitter, but fair warning, I only do social listening on Twitter. I usually don't repost. Again, thank you very much. Grace, I hand this over to you.
Amazing. I absolutely loved everything you had to say, Isabella. And I think just looking at the chat, everyone took something away or will take something away from this discussion to be more confident and better to self-reflect and know what they're great at and what they need to work on. So thank you so much for this discussion. It was very well received, and we're so grateful that you could join us at the summit. As Isabella mentioned, we are tight for time, but you can connect with her on the virtual platform over the next 3 days, just going to her profile, making a video meeting request, or just send her a chat. Very easy to connect at the Leadership Summit this year. That being said, I want to invite everyone to attend our next session starting in just a few minutes, called Hi, I'm Anxious, Please Help Me, and that's being presented by Amanda Fletcher. So just a few minutes away, head over there next. In between that and now, grab yourself a glass of water, maybe a bite to eat, and feel free to hang out on the platform where you can check out virtual booths, participate in group discussions, connect with other attendees who you met in this session, and more. So enjoy the rest of your day, enjoy exploring the platform, and thank you for joining us at the Leadership Summit today. Have a great rest of your day, everyone.
Thank you so much, everyone. Take care. Thank you, Grace.
Thank you. Bye now.